Greetings everyone, it's Duckville here. We're going to watch some Heart of the Swarm action today. Of course, well, I suppose it's always going to be Heart of the Swarm action from now. Pretty much if you want to see Wings of Liberty, you can go back through older casts, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Because we're not going to be doing too much Wings of Liberty anymore. Because of course Heart of the Swarm is just absolutely magnificent, but we'll get on to that in just a minute. Let's quickly introduce the players. Starting down at the bottom left hand side of Daybreak is our Red Zerg player from Team Immunity. It is Mafia. He's of course one of the very good Zerg players that we have down here in Australia. He's reached GM on the Korean server, and I'm sure we'll be battling to get that sort of really prestigious title yet again this season. If in fact has GM opened yet? I think it might have. What's the date today? It's like the 17th of March or something like that. I think it might have opened by now. Anyway, his opponent up at the top right hand side here is our Blue Terran player from Team Liquid. It is Taeja. Of course, one of the wonderful players on Team Liquid. Some would say perhaps the best player on Team Liquid, because some of his teammates have unfortunately not been doing too well lately, but I am sure we will see some of those guys rise back up to the challenge. Looks like he is going to be doing a proxy barracks here, of course, with some of the new units and some of these new strategies you can use. Of course, various things are going to be a little bit different to what Wings of Liberty looked like. I know everyone, pretty much everyone and their pet monkey has played in the beta, and obviously by now, as I said, about a week later after release, everyone's going to have played quite a lot of the game. But what I'm going to do is for this first week or so of casting, what we're going to do is just make sure that I am going to sort of reiterate very simple things like, Reapers are now fast, Reapers now regenerate, Void Rays have prismatic alignment, all these kinds of things. So just, bear in mind if you hear me mention something a little bit silly that you think is a little bit very simple, don't worry, we'll sort of get past that eventually. But anyway, we've got Taeja starting out with that proxy racks, as I mentioned. Probably, there it is, yep, got a Reaper on the way. Mafia is going to have a little bit of trouble on his hands. It looks like he has found that the bunker is going down at the bottom of the ramp at the natural. A little bit worried about the position of that bunker, because it could be, I think, hit by a queen if it's standing up at that sort of position there. But Taeja, he's not too worried at the moment. Does a quick check inside the main, sees the spawning pool is almost done, and he'll send in this first Reaper and try and get some damage done. So these guys, as I mentioned, very fast now. Of course, they've still got their jetpacks so they can jump up the cliffs. They've now got regen when they're out of combat. Keep in mind that the key words there, out of combat, they will regen some of their health. As you can see here, this guy is not going to get, they don't do a massive amount of damage at the moment. They only do 4 damage per attack. They have that range of 5 still, and of course they still do really well against some of these very light units right at the start, but they don't decimate worker lines like they used to. Of course, if you will remember back to some older Wings of Liberty when Reapers were used quite a lot more, you would see 2 or 3 and they'd run into a mineral line and just absolutely annihilate everything, so that is a little bit scary. So Taeja has had a quick check yet again, got the Roach Warren coming down from Mafia, so it looks like he will get a couple of Roaches out. Will need, well, he's got 3 on the way, so we will have quite a few of them coming out, and they'll be able to bust down that bunker, or will they? We'll see in just a moment. Looks like Mafia just preparing for the attack here to bust down that bunker. The SCV, I believe, has gone home. Yes, he has. Meanwhile, back at home, speaking of home, for Taeja, he's got his command center for the natural on the way. Factory just switching across, going to pick up a tech lab, and it looks like Mafia is going to go for the attack. Yep, there he goes. He has blown up the bunker there, so that's he's gotten rid of that little bit of a threat, and he'll be he'll be happy to get his droning back on. Mafia is a big macro player. He loves getting a lot of drones. Of course, it's a very simple thing to say about a Zerg player, but he is one of the really top line macro players who loves to he'll crank out like, as quickly as possible, get his macro going, and then just absolutely flood people and destroy them. So Taeja is going to try and stick around as long as possible. One of the Reapers now going down. The Lings trying to chase after, but as you can see, Lings even on creep without speed aren't as fast as a Reaper. This is obviously such a monumental change in this matchup. It allows you to use Reapers for scouting. As we saw, Taeja was able to get a good read on what's going on, but unfortunately with the Roaches now out, he's not really going to be able to get too much done. So back at home for him, he's of course got a third command center on the way. The barracks is coming back, and it looks like we'll have a couple of tanks coming out here. A good response to those Roaches, of course. If Mafia wanted to, he could certainly have a quick poke across the map and maybe get a little bit of damage done. But now that the first tank is here, we'll have a second one very soon as well. Things are going to be very difficult for Mafia to try and push in a little bit further and get some damage done. So good reaction there from Taeja. As we can see, Mafia is just really bursting out of the seams with those drones. He's already gone up to the 4 gases, so it looks as if he will invest quite a bit in that. In ZvT, of course, you do tend to see some mutas pop about every now and then. If you're watching MLG, of course, the champion at the end, spoiler alert, 1, 2, 3, was Life, and he did a really heavy job with a really good job, I suppose is a better word. With Mutalings and Bane, and even took out the Mighty Flash. So you do see the mutas from time to time. We'll have to check out which direction Mafia is going to go in. Of course, you can sometimes see some plays that'll bring out swarm hosts. Of course, commonly utilized to try and siege up a base, but I don't think that's Mafia's style. It seems a little bit too. It sounds weird, but it's kind of a bit passive-aggressive, and I don't think that is the style that Mafia likes to go for. He would rather just sort of macro up and sort of get those power units out, head towards the mid-game, and then the late game, where Zerg is, of course, generally very strong. Of course, one of the big contentious points that came out of MLG is the fact that that Zerg is, of course, a very dominant sort of race through the mid-game, but through towards the later game, they can have a little bit of trouble. But as we can see, Taeja going to have a quick scout through, pokes around, sees what damage he can get done, but in fact, no, he's just going to have a quick look and see what buildings are coming along, and of course we do see that the Spire is on the way. I'm not sure if Taeja identified that, but I would assume that from his, his sort of skills in identifying what's coming along, he'll certainly be ready for that once it comes out. And in fact, he's going to go for a mech play. As we saw just a little bit earlier, the double armor is going down. 1-1 on the mech upgrades coming through. As you can see on the work account, we've got 67 drones out for Mafia. Even after that heavy pressure right at the start with the triple Reapers and the bunker, he's already back up to 66 drones. We've now got 6 gases about to be pumping out all of that Vespene gas, which he really needs. And of course, he'll be looking to move into that mid-game stage where he is quite powerful. Meanwhile, for Taeja, he's got his third base just about established now. The extra orbital command just about to pop down on the ground there and get established with that base. And as we can see, up to 3 factories. With the 1-1 popping out, he won't necessarily have a massive amount of units, but they are, of course, very cost efficient. These tanks now, with the fact that you don't have to research siege, do save you a little bit of gas and a little bit of minerals. So these 1-1 upgrades are almost done, which is a very quick timing, of course. Just 11 minutes, and those are just about done. So this does look pretty decent for both of these players right now. We don't have Mafia truly jetting ahead of where he possibly would like to be, but Taeja is not really going too far just as of yet as well. So looks like the hive is now on the way. That is an 11-minute hive. Of course, that is they'll probably pop up at around about the 13-minute mark. Roaches and Hydras are going to be the main core units for the moment from Mafia. It looks as if he will try and just come across the map, try and re-establish some presence through the middle section of the map. Of course, his creep spread only just sort of starting to head out across the map, but still, it's not too bad if he's at least covering some of the portions, connecting the bases here. I really would like to see an Overlord or 2 just dropping some creep down there as well to connect those bases. But as long as you've got it started and it is starting to push out, then you will be, pretty happy with the job that's going on. So Taeja looks like he is trying to get set up with a reasonable little defense here. Both of these guys just playing very passive, but Taeja preparing for that stage of the game where the Zerg player will look to get very aggressive. Of course, these Thors now coming out, they do add a huge amount of damage there. With their Thor hammer, they do 33 damage in 2 attacks. And then when you switch over to high impact payload, which I think is going to be a very common thing to see in sort of late game TVZ, you'll see these guys do 26 damage at 10 range. And in fact, he's just going to pull that straight straight out right now, because he has, it looks as if he actually hasn't really scouted what's going on, has no idea that the fourth base is there, but you probably can assume at this point that the Zerg players already got their fourth base and getting that really, really big economy established. As we can see, Mafia up to 85 drones right now. So at the 13-minute mark, his economy is pumping along, even up to 90 drones right now. He's going to get that 5th hatchery up and running. We do have a macro hatch inside domain. Looks as if some Vipers are now coming up. These guys, of course, the Dragonflies of the sky. They've got Consume, this ability. We can see them using right now. What this does, of course, it just eats up the building, gives them some energy. Pretty simple. I like to call these buildings the buffet buildings. You often see a lot of Zerg players will just sort of put some Evo chambers out randomly in the middle of the map there. That's not actually to upgrade anything. It's actually for using the Evo chamber health. Of course, it's a very efficient sort of unit in building in terms of cost versus health in the actual building. So what you can do is throw down Evo chambers. Some people use hatcheries and then use the Viper Consume on them as soon as the Vipers come out to get some energy up and running. And now Mafia, he has used a little bit of the supply cheat there. He's thrown down some Spore Crawlers and then boosted his supply up to 212. So he is now way over the cap. It looks like he is going to move forward. Taeja trying to move into the 4th base position to establish the command center here. He's got some tanks at the back. We do have some Widow Mines here. Of course, these guys do a momentous amount of damage. They do, how much is it? 125 with 40 splash damage on nearby units. But Mafia now just going to push into the 3rd base here. We'll see if he can get some damage done. Blinding Cloud on top of those tanks. These guys can now not actually shoot until the Blinding Cloud wears off. However, I'm not sure the position that Mafia has put himself in. He is completely trapped. He may be able to go just straight up through into the natural, but I mean, he is going to highly likely just lose all of these units here. Of course, the Viper's a very gas-intensive unit, so you really don't want to be losing those if possible. If he can perhaps fly them out, maybe throw down a Blinding Cloud, but unfortunately doesn't really have any available. But as we can see, 3rd base is being pretty well knocked down here by Mafia. In fact, he does get the order command, so nicely done by him. He's, well, he's taken that base down. Of course, this puts Taeja down to a total of 50 SCVs, but he is playing as mech, so he's not going to be too flustered about that just at the moment. Of course, you can throw down. The main issue with losing a base like that is that you don't have this extra gas coming in, but now that he has established this, what is now effectively the 4th base in that middle portion there, he will be able to get some of that gas coming back in. Now, what is Mafia? What is he resupplying to? We've got a lot of roaches. These guys are going to have 2-2 on their upgrades. The Vipers coming across, they are going to drain some of the energy on that hatchery, but you've got to be very careful. You don't want these kind of things to die. If you have a look at a game from a previous cast in beta, Mitsure versus Wiper, watch that guy and check out his consume on one of his hatcheries. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. But Mafia coming through, it looks as if he will take down quite a lot of those mech units. Of course, very expensive units here in this very narrow corridor. The Thor's still trying to get some damage done with that high impact payload mode active. You can see a slight difference in the way that they look, so you will be able to tell if they're in that mode, and not to mention you'll be able to feel it because they can shoot so far and do a lot of damage. So it looks as if we are going to move into that sort of mid to late game stage of the game. Now Taeja has re-established his base down to the southern right hand side, just getting that up and running again. Of course, needs to get a few more orbital commands going, and I think that is what he is doing right now. Was what you want to do with mech at this sort of mid to late game stage, invest in some command centers, get some more orbital commands up and running, and then you can drop down your SCV count. And now you say that, you hear that and you say, why do you want to do that, Mr. Duckville? Well, what you want to do is you don't want all of these SCVs to be taking up too much supply. Of course, the power of mech comes in the efficiency of the actual supply per unit. They do a momentous amount of damage, but they do cost quite a lot of supply to get them out. So what you want to be able to do is later on in the game, drop down some mules. You don't need the SCVs apart from mining gas, and then you will be able to get out more units. And as we can see, looks like Taeja trying to get some harassment going, but unfortunately, Mafia was well prepared for that as a very good player should be, and evacuated the drones for the time being, and takes pretty much no damage. We've had only 23 worker kills, and that was all of the workers that were lost down here at the third of Taeja. So Taeja is looking pretty good. Well, sorry, Mafia is handling this pretty good, but this is the problem when you get to this sort of later game stage where Terran is able to establish this fourth base. We've got upgrades coming out of everywhere right now. We've got the Blue Flame on the way. Drilling Claws is done. Of course, the transform mode on the Viking, on the Hellions is all done. We got +1 weapons and also +3 on the weapons of those ground units is all done. So the tanks, the Hellions, and the Thors will all be doing a huge amount of damage, and it looks like Mafia is wanting to try and get some of his own damage done right now. He really needs to make sure he's prepared for that late game stage. He needs to look at perhaps looking towards that Ultra Tech. Of course, they do a huge amount of damage. He is getting the Kindness plating. It does have the Ultralisk Cavern here, but before he can actually get anything out, he's effectively supply cap right now at 188, basically at the 200 mark, and he's going to want to trade some units here. He's looking to just try and take down some of these turrets, maybe get a Thor or 3, and then perhaps a couple of tanks as well. And if he can do that, then switch into the Ultralisk, then he'll be sitting quite pretty. But one important thing you want to do is make sure that these Vipers stay alive. These guys are extremely useful when you get to that later stage where Ultralisks come out, and you need to be using Blinding Cloud on top of tanks so that the Ultras don't get bashed down before they can even get in range. And of course, as you can see here, it looks as if Taeja might be moving into the Battlecruiser Tech, which I think we are going to see a lot more of in Heart of the Swarm. Later stages, as we mentioned, as I just sort of mentioned before, with Blinding Cloud going down on some of these ground units, it actually can be a little bit difficult sometimes to fend off a large sort of Ultralisk attack. Now, how do you deal with the Ultralisk? Well, last time I checked, they can't shoot up. So if you can get some Battlecruisers out, that'll certainly help out. You don't necessarily need to go mass Battlecruisers to try and kill off the Zerg, because then, of course, that can result in a whole heap of Corruptors in your face, and that's never good at all. So what you want to do perhaps is throw in some Ravens. As we can see, Ravens have already started popping out. We got 2 Battlecruisers on the way. The Fusion Core dance is going right there, up and down, and a couple more starports will definitely come on the way from Taeja. So he's not going to really spend too much on the ground anymore. We've got enough Hellbats out to try and fend off any ground-based units that will come along. Of course, the tanks can help out with that as well. We've now got this massive siege line across this middle section of the map. He's basically drawing a line across this way to block off the bottom section of the map. Now, for Mafia, of course, these upgrades looking good. 3-3 on the ranged units. We've now got 5-1 on these Ultralisks. He's actually starting to really just drop some of that supply. He's got a massive bank here with the 4,000 gas there as well, and the Ultras are starting to come out in greater numbers. We've also got a lot of Hydras also coming about as well. They can really help out with the DPS. If the Ultras are tanking, doing some extra damage there in the front line, and the Hydras are able to sit back, do their pretty good DPS. I mean, look at that, 15 DPS there, and in fact, that's not per second. That's even less than a second their shots. But if they can come along and get some damage done, then Mafia will be laughing all the way to the ladder points bank. But for the moment, it looks like Taeja is just trying to move along, trying to slowly push down here to take a position and get this 5th base here. And if he can get it, then, well, we'll see how things go. Looks like we'll have a couple of Blinding Clouds there. Thors, tanks at the back. Hydra's now coming in as well. The Ultras are basically dying off here. There's only these 2 left, and once those are gone, as we mentioned before, it is very hard for the Hydras to get some damage done, because those siege tanks will be able to do a huge amount of damage there. But Blinding Cloud helping out, of course, it does affect that Planetary Fortress as well. Maybe if Mafia can just burn down that Planetary Fortress, he'll be very happy with that. But across to the side, more tanks, more siege dump tanks there are going to be trying to fend off those Hydras, but they do get the kill in the end, and the Planetary goes down. So good work there by Mafia, just trying to get some decent trades going here. Wants to really downsize that army of Taeja by using some of those lower cost Hydralisks. But the fact of the matter is, the main base of Mafia, now mined out, is natural, almost gone as well. The 3rd is looking very, very flimsy as well. His 4th and the 5th are, of course, looking pretty decent right now, and are well protected. Of course, it's good to have a couple of spines out in these sorts of positions, but what is he going to do when it gets to this stage here? Because Taeja is now starting to add just more and more battlecruisers to his fleet. We've got 4 on the way. We have ship plating level 3 just about to finish up. Or sorry, that is just starting there. I sort of misread that. And ship weapons level 3 is on the way. So these battlecruisers, all 4 of them about to float in and be added to the main attack force of Taeja, are going to be bringing in a huge amount of damage. And we'll have to see how Mafia is going to deal with that. Meanwhile, at the top side of the maps, and Hellions with their blue flame gonna bust in. They do have +3 on their weapons, of course, so they will really just roast down quite a lot of these drones and do a fantastic job at that. But the Ultras come about and deal with that quite easily. So Taeja, he's just taking it very calm, very controlled method of just sort of eventually moving into a higher battlecruiser count here. If you, I think he really should be careful. Just as I said before, just sort of switching into too many battlecruisers may be a little bit of a dangerous thing. But I mean, he's up against a lot of Ultralists, and you know, as we said before, Ultralists can't really do too much against the battlecruisers apart from call them really rude names and things like that. So you know, we'll have to see how he adapts based on that. 4 more battlecruisers about to pop out. The Behemoth reactor, was that what the upgrade is called? I can't remember if they changed it. I haven't actually read that name for so long. But anyway, we've got Mafia now pushing through. It looks as if he is going to try and come across and take down quite a lot of the units here. But unfortunately for him, there are so many battlecruisers in the air. Hunter-Seeker missiles now coming down on the Hydras as well, which means it is only the Ultralists and a few stray Hydras at the back. Yamato cannons going down, dealing a huge amount of damage there. Ultralists are very red right now. We'll have to see if Mafia wants to bring in some Queens to heal those up, because you really don't want to see Ultras this low and just sort of bumbling into the fight there, because they can just pretty much die straight away, which is never what you want to see in a fight. So Taeja thinks it's time to move on. We've got the Widow Mines, of course, moving across. These guys, if they burrow in a nice sort of separated position, can really do a good job of just sort of zoning out your opponent. So I really do like what Taeja has done right here. Now got the tanks moving through. The Corruptor count is slowly being added to, and they will come about and try and deal with these battlecruisers. Of course, it looks like the Widow Mine's now helping out quite a bit. The Corruptor's doing a ridiculous amount of damage, but unfortunately, there is just so much damage coming out of these battlecruisers here. Mafia going to try and resupply with 34 Corruptors on the way. He's also got his +1 to flyer attacks finally coming about, and with mules dropping down for Taeja, he will try and resupply these battlecruisers as quickly as possible, and or not resupply, but heal up those battlecruisers as quickly as possible. Looks like he is going to head across to try and take down that base. Mafia, unfortunately, some drones just transferring across there right now. Really would like to see Taeja just bust down that base, but Mafia, he's in this very precarious position right now, up at 197 supply, but look at the unit count. 40 Corruptors. After that, all you've got on the ground are 5 Ultralists. We do see them just busting through the bottom base here. A Hunter-Seeker missile now just catching one of them there, doing a little bit of damage and not really getting too much else done, but the base will be stopped for now. Looks like the Corruptors now just trying to march their way through the middle of the map there, taking down the battlecruisers one by one. Good target fire there from Mafia. He is slowly working through that battlecruiser count there, working it down to around about 5, and the Yamato cannon's coming about. Unfortunately, a little bit of a misclick from Mafia there. He will get the corruption off and will take down another battlecruiser, but that may be the end of that assault. Well, no, he's going to finish off one more, maybe get a couple of extras there, and that actually puts a really nice position here for Mafia. I mean, he's now sitting there with all those Corruptors in the air, but the problem is, where is his resupply coming from? I'm going to assume it's going to be Ultras or Roaches or something like that, because at the moment, there you go, 15 Hydras are now on the way, so he is going to be able to get out a little bit of a resupply. Just having a quick look through, trying to see what Taeja is up to. Taeja is trying to resupply with just with some much more basic units. Of course, these tanks now coming out, Vikings as well. You know, I kind of feel like you know, the Vikings may be just a quick reaction there to try and deal with the possibility of Broodlords. In fact, where is the Great Aspire? There it is. It's finally coming about. So he is going to try and get some Broodlords out eventually, or look at that possible switch, but he has moved into a huge Roach Hydra count right now. This is going to be really good against these large amounts of Hellbats that are on the ground here in Taeja. He's looking to try and just stabilize himself right now. Mafia is up at 194 supply, but as we said before, his mining is starting to get low. We've got his third base low, the fourth now looking a little bit grim, his fifth up the top still not looking too badly, but he will need to re-establish this 6 base, or possibly this base here, if he really wants to stay in this game, because of course, as we said before, mech is a very, very efficient kind of way to play. And it looks like Mafia will try and push into this base yet again. My god, the amount of times that this base has been attacked by Mafia here. Vikings landing on the ground like the cinematic to Heart of the Swarm. And the Hydras and Roaches are just burning through all of the tanks here. Blinding Cloud has just restricted the usage of these tanks so much. And in fact, is probably going to catch out some of the extra units that are going to come in here. And the base goes down. And Mafia is going to take control right here, right now. He's got the Great Aspire about to finish up. Of course, those Corruptors in the air may be able to switch across into some Broodlords right now. Taeja does have a couple of Thors out. He does have a few tanks on the ground as well, but I mean, he just... We'll see if it's going to be enough. I'm not sure if it is going to be, because he's now starting to wear very thin on his own resources right now. As we can see, his main, natural, and third are all done. His fourth base here is almost out of minerals as well, and we'll have to see how efficient Taeja can be with all of these mech units. We've got a total of 3 Thors, we've got 1 Hellion, 3 Hellbats, and 9 tanks out on the field right now, to the total of 12 Hydralisks, 5 Roaches, 5 Vipers, and a couple of Queens if you want to add them into the mix. But of course, the big issue for Taeja right now, oh my god, that button doesn't work, are these guys. We've got 12 Broodlords about to pop out here for Mafia. They've got 1-1 on their upgrades, so they aren't looking completely fantastic, but I tell you what, with only 3 Thors in their high-impact payload mode right now, and where are the Vikings? No Vikings left over. There are a couple of Widowmines in the middle of the map. Looks like one of them will catch a little bit of a shot there on that Broodlord, but the Broodlords, they can utilize this dead space here where they can sit off the side and lay down the siege on some of these units. It looks like the Hydras are trying to push forward as quickly as possible. May see an Abduct or two, or perhaps just a simple Blinding Cloud on top of this area. And Taeja is in so much trouble right now. His mining is starting to wear very thin, as we said before. His units have, there's no real counter to all of these Broodlords here. While it is very nice to have those Thors there with their high impact payload and all of their extra upgrades that they've got, there are just so many Broodlords here, and I would not be surprised to see a couple of Abducts. Nope, just a Blinding Cloud yet again. Just completely destroying any utilization of these units right here. And Taeja is in so much trouble. I think we will probably see a GG very soon. But the Vikings coming in from the side, riding in from the side there, bringing in the pain on those Broodlords. 3 Hydras on the ground, trying to deal with the Vikings as best as possible. Do take them down for the most part, and only 4 Vikings are left to go back inside, and Taeja is stuck in a very, very hard place right now. Talk about a rock between a hard place. The flood of Lings has now started up from Mafia. That's a sign. That can mean 2 things when you're playing against the Zerg. That either means that they're very confident in the position they're in and just want to start flooding, or that they're out of gas, or that they actually have no idea what they're doing. But I tell you what, it is pretty much the first position right now. Mafia in complete control of this game. Taeja about to go down despite his valiant efforts using that mech style here. The Planetary about to go down. The Hellbats on the ground unfortunately can't really do too much, but they will be able to get rid of some of those Broodlings. And in fact, Taeja brings some Vikings into the play. He will be sticking around for the time being. He is fighting in this game as best as possible right now. What does Mafia have back at home? He's got a lot of minerals and of course a lot of these Lings, but there are so many Hellbats coming out, and look at these guys. Look at the damage they do. 39 damage and a little bit of a spray shape there. He's also got a couple more coming about. Tanks, Hellbats, and even more units are now about to pop out here from Taeja. So if he can keep his cost efficiency up, then he may be able to hold this game back. And here come the Lings trying to surround some of those Hellbats. They're just turning around for a quick spray, just burning down all of those Lings, and it looks like Taeja is going to stick around. He's not done yet. 16 Hellbats are here. If they can get in range of the Hydras, then they will be able to burn them all down, of course, and the tanks are going to try and help out with that. Vikings up in the sky, of course, not really too much to shoot from them, but if they can take down those Vikings, that is the Vipers, that is very nice for them. Tanks at the back, we've got a Blinding Cloud here. Looks like the Hydra's starting to get mowed down by the tanks, and more Hellbats coming in. The Vikings helping out. Roaches, Lings, Taeja, GG's, and that is going to be enough for him. He has fought valiantly, almost coming back at the last moment there, but unfortunately just did not have enough. He's lost all of his bases, all of his mining, and Mafia was able to hold true. With this base just sticking around for quite a long time there, he was able to get out quite a lot of those basic units. We saw the Lings come back into play, the Hydras came back a little bit, as well as the Roaches as well, and that was very, very nice stuff from Mafia. So I hope you all enjoyed that match. Make sure you share and like and comment and all that cool stuff, whatever it is, and I'll catch you all next time. Cheers. This very quick 3-base Protoss player. The Oracle going to try and get in and get some more damage done. In fact, whoop, not able to get too much just because the Queen came along from Pig very quickly and forced that attack back. A couple of Zealots, however, are going to sneak